Привіт! І дякую за запрошення. I'm very glad to be here. I'm honored to be here. And I'm here to talk about victory from science, victory from space. Okay? How Ukraine can become a leader in the spaceflight revolution and why it must. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a number of things. I'm going to talk a little bit about the spaceflight revolution itself, why Ukraine should join it, how Ukraine can become one of its leaders, and why it is important for the world that it does so. Okay, so there are 7 virtues, as you may know. Here they are, depicted by Sandro Botticelli. 4 of them come from the ancients, 3 from the Christians. The ancients put courage as the first of the virtues, and I agree with them, because without it, none of the other virtues matter. Okay, and the Christians had love as their first. I'll put that right afterwards. But after that comes wisdom, practical wisdom, without which courage and love cannot prevail. Science is part of practical wisdom, okay? We must take 3rd place, but we're still important. We are the armorers for the knights, okay? The courage is first, yes, and we give salute. Those are the people, if the people aren't willing to fight, the best weapons in the world won't avail them of anything, but still, good weapons help. Okay, so, the spaceflight revolution. There is a revolution in spaceflight going on right now. It's been spearheaded by Elon Musk and the SpaceX company that he leads. While his private opinions regarding Ukraine in this war are poorly informed and, wrong, but nevertheless, he has created some magnificent capabilities and set a magnificent example in terms of what he has done in his technical work. What he has done in creating these reusable launch vehicles and satellite constellations is not only created a number of important capabilities, he has demonstrated that it is possible for a well-led entrepreneurial team to do things that it was previously thought only the governments of superpowers could do, and not only that, do them in 1/3 the time, at 1/10 the cost, and even do things that they had deemed impossible completely, such as reusable launch vehicles. And as a result, he's cut the cost of space launch by a factor of 5 in the past 10 years, from $10,000 a kilogram to orbit to $2,000. And so a whole bunch of space business plans that were previously impractical have become practical. Massive satellite constellations are being launched. Private space stations are being launched. There's going to be big business in space. And the more launches there are, the cheaper space launch is going to be. And the cheaper space launch is going to be, the more launches there are going to be. And also the less conservative spacecraft designers need to be. And so this thing is taking off. And here's the other thing about this being an entrepreneurial revolution. It means that free people everywhere can join it. You don't have to be part of a superpower. New Zealand has a launch company called Rocket Lab, which has reached orbit and is planning a mission to Venus, okay? And if New Zealand can do it, Ukraine can do it. And New Zealand doesn't even have a proper space program, but they've got entrepreneurs who've launched a launch company. Okay, so science can give Ukraine space, and space can give Ukraine victory. Okay, here is a picture of the very famous Russian cruiser Moskva. It's now a world-famous ship, featured on postage stamps and T-shirts. And everybody knows about the Moskva. Before, no one had heard of it. And it was made famous by precision-guided weapons, okay? Space assets, okay, which include space-based communications, space-based reconnaissance, and space-based GPS based on satellites, is precision-guided weapons. And this ship was made famous by Ukraine using just 2 missiles. It was hit by 2 missiles. It wasn't you launched 50 missiles and 2 managed to hit. You launched 2 missiles and they both hit, okay? And these capabilities, these smart scientific capabilities, are what is the equalizer in this war, okay? You are outnumbered by the Russians more than 3 to 1, yet you're holding your own, and now you're giving them a real hard time down in Zaporozhye with the help of these capabilities. HIMARS is space-based capabilities. This is, in fact, what might be called the first space war, okay, in which space assets were decisive. Yes, the United States had these space assets in our war with Iraq, but they were a frill. We would have beaten Iraq without them. It didn't matter. Here, they are the critical balance. And this war is going to be looked at by military thinkers forever in the future as decisive. That is, in future wars, space superiority will be as decisive as air superiority was in World War II. Yes, but the vast majority of the fighting occurs on the ground. The vast majority of the dying occurs, of course, on the ground. But it's the space assets which will determine which side actually wins. And I believe that Ukraine has the capability to, in this war, you are making use largely of American space capabilities. Okay, and I'm very glad that we are providing these to you. In 2014, however, the Obama administration declined to provide them to you. Okay, the Russian concentrations around Donetsk, and if you can remember, in August 2014, you were winning the war in Donetsk, and then the Russians assembled armored forces on your flanks and did an encirclement maneuver and delivered a nasty defeat to your forces. Those concentrations could not have escaped our reconnaissance capabilities. Obama administration decided not to warn you. Okay, that was a horrible thing they did, but they did it. Now, this time around, the Obama administration did warn you, okay, and that was a very good thing, and they've been providing you with reconnaissance information ever since. Okay, but look, I'd like to be able to tell you you can always count on America to be there for you. And if I have any say in it, it will, but I don't always have a say in it. And who knows? So you need to develop your own capabilities of this kind. And also, the ability to deny Russia capabilities of this kind. Okay? Right now, there are Russian satellites flying over Ukraine, looking down on you. Reconnaissance satellites looking down on you, spotting your forces. Radar satellites looking down on you, identifying your movements. Topographic satellites that are used to plan the attack routes of cruise missiles, which fly very low and have to avoid terrain features and even tall buildings. Those satellites should not be allowed to do that. They are only at 500 kilometers altitude. You have the capability, I'm telling you, you got the capability to develop the ability to knock those things down, okay? And you should, okay? You should. Because even if you have an administration, American administration, as supportive as the Biden administration, they won't do that for you because that's an act of war against Russia. Now, you're entitled to do acts of war against Russia, okay? But let's develop the capabilities that allow you to take care of these things. People will say, oh, you're turning those satellites into orbital debris. Well, that would be a good thing to turn them into. Okay, now, beyond the war, science to rebuild Ukraine, to rebuild its economy. As I said, there's an enormous commercial space revolution going on right now. There's all sorts of business taking place in space. Massive orbital communications constellations are coming. They're already here with the Starlink. But you know, technology will advance a little bit and there'll be a need for a more modern communication network than Starlink. So these things are going to be happening all the time. And this is a business that Ukraine can, should, and must take part in. And I also have to say, okay, having a vibrant commercial space industry is the foundation for having strong military space capabilities as well. Okay, the military satellites will draw on capabilities developed for the commercial market, and also the other way. But certainly having a broad-based commercial space industry is of great benefit for developing military capabilities as needed, and even providing military capabilities such as communications. Space technology benefits all other industries. You can use space technology to help agriculture, you know, and so forth, remote sensing. And also, here's a very important point, accepting the challenge of space develops intellectual capital. And what you're looking at here is a graph of STEM graduates in the United States in the period from 1960 to 1990. And what you're seeing here, the most important thing is what happens between 1960 and 1970. That was the period of the Apollo program when we reached for the moon. And what happened was our number of STEM graduates doubled, okay? And in some fields tripled. And at every level, high school, college, PhD. Why? Because the Apollo program, the reach for the moon, made science the great adventure. And youth loves adventure, okay? And that is why, well, I myself am one of those children. I'm one of Apollo's children. I became a scientist. I was growing up during the 1960s. We were going to the moon. I was all in. Now, I happen to be a little unusual in my generation of scientists as being a person who actually ended up working in the space program. The rest of them went off and built Silicon Valley and created computers and the internet, and then later on biotech. You know, so the point is not that they end up doing space. The point is they end up doing all sorts of things that both benefit space, national defense, industrial competitiveness, public health, you name it, okay? You want to develop your intellectual capital, okay? Which means you want to have a bold space program, okay? Now, it may seem a little out of place in a time like this to be talking about missions to Mars. I always talk about missions to Mars, so you'll just have to accept that. But but I think it's important here and now to you know, even if you're in the trenches, to be able to look up and see the stars. And the thing to understand is this: Ukraine doesn't need just to survive. It must define itself as a great nation, a great nation. And great nations do great things, okay? And this age is an age of discovery. 500 years from now, only people with doctorates in history will know who Vladimir Putin was, okay? But they will remember the people that opened and explored Mars, okay? They will remember the people that discovered life in other solar systems, okay? And Ukraine should be part and parcel of this great age of discovery and this great age of science, okay? And you know, there are going to be new branches of human civilization born in space. And will you be part of them? Will anybody on Mars know who Taras Shevchenko was? Okay? It's the people who take part in this are going to be the ones who put their stamp on the future. And Ukraine should decide that it's going to be one of the ones who puts their stamp on the future. You want to be part of the future, okay? Now, let's get down to a little bit of policy. How can Ukraine become a leader in the spaceflight revolution? Okay, You have, I mean, there's, I think something like 40 small and a couple of large space-related companies here in Ukraine. And as I think many of you know, the Soviet space program, which was sometimes promoted as being the Russian space program, really wasn't a Russian space program. It was a Soviet space program in which Ukrainians played, and Ukrainian capabilities played a very large part, including the chief designer of the whole thing, Korolev, but also many industrial components. Now, a lot of these pieces are still around, they're kind of lying around. They need to be put back together again and create a powerful space program for both military, commercial, and scientific purposes. Now, your program, both your military and your scientific initiatives need to be purpose-driven, not vendor-driven. Now, this is an issue for all government space programs. This is not a question unique to you, but it is a question that you will have to face, just as we have to deal with it constantly in the United States. NASA has two modes of operation. One is when they spend money to do things. The other is when they do things in order to spend money. Okay? And that's the difference between being purpose-driven and vendor-driven. And when they spend money to do things, they are very efficient and they do incredible things. And when they do things in order to spend money, they waste things and they don't accomplish anything. And this is the thing to keep in mind. So what this means is that when you have a space initiative of some kind, okay, first of all, it has to be for a good purpose, a very useful purpose. But second of all, you have to open up the contracts to all companies and compete it on the basis of merit. Promote merit by being smart shoppers. You do not want all the contracts to go to state-owned companies, which is a thing that happens with state space agencies, okay? You can give the contract to a state-owned company if, in fact, it's the best one for that job. But you don't give it to them automatically. You open it up, you let the best companies win. And that's how you promote the best companies, okay? You want to embrace and lead the development of stratospheric technology. And this is something that could be relevant to this conflict in the here and now. Okay, there's a whole new domain. You can use balloons to extend the range of drones, to lift them and take them long distances and drop them, and hit targets greatly beyond the range of your present drones. You should develop these kinds of capabilities. Beyond that, you want to embrace and lead the small sat revolution. I noticed there's a company here, Spacebox, has got little small sats that is doing something that previously would have taken at least a medium-sized satellite to do. And as electronics advance, it's now become possible to build satellites that weigh 10 kilograms that can do what previously it took 1,000 kilograms to do, okay, which it costs 100 times as much to launch and cost 100 times as much to build. Now, you want to lead this thing. This is the future. You want to embrace the development of reusable first stages, like the Falcons. And then beyond that, you want to start joining the international space community. You want to join ESA missions and NASA missions, put instruments on those missions, participate in them. And once again, the Ukrainian government should facilitate the entry into those missions of all sorts of Ukrainian companies, including private companies, not just state-owned companies or other connections. Just let everybody play the game. But then you also want to launch your own planetary missions. Now, think about this. The United Arab Emirates sent an orbiter to Mars. If they can do it, you can do it. Okay, if they can do it, you can do it. Yes, you can become and should become part of ESA and participate in their stuff, but do some stuff on your own. And in fact, set an example to many of these European countries. You know, the United Kingdom has never done an interplanetary mission of its own. Okay, France, Germany. Okay, show them up. Okay, really. And also, as far as participating in international initiatives, develop things that other people are not developing. For instance, there's a critical need for space nuclear power. You have the technologists who can develop that. You should, and be the ones with the missing piece. Okay? And I believe that if you do this, okay, you can become superior in space military technologies to Russia. Superior, and not by borrowing American capabilities that may or may not be there when you need them, but by having your own. Be stronger than them in this area. They'll always have 3 times as many infantry as you, but you can have better space capabilities and be stronger than them overall. Okay, okay. So now I want to talk about why this is important for the world. Okay, and here, I'm going back, in 1858, actually almost exactly 175 years to the day before today, Abraham Lincoln, our greatest president, gave a speech in which he said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect this house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become all one thing or all the other." The famous House Divided speech, okay? And it was settled in war, and this is a painting here of a scene that is familiar to most Americans. This is the surrender of the slaveholders at Appomattox, 1865, okay? Okay, the Union, that is the slaveholders were called the Confederacy. They wore gray. The Union, the free states, they wore blue. They won. And this is the surrender of the slaveholders. And the slaveocracy was defeated, okay, because the Union was able to attract and mobilize the talents of free people, okay? Now, the world today, okay, this one was settled, but the world today is a house divided. It is half slave and half free, okay? And I believe that this war here, now, this is the fork in the road that is going to determine which way this thing is going to go. It's all going to become someday all one or all the other. And I believe that this war is determinant. And I believe that the forces of freedom can win this struggle as well by mobilizing what freedom has to offer, okay? The forces of slavery, okay, they say they can win because they can mobilize people and not care about whether they live or die. Whereas we, the free, do care about whether we live or die, okay? And they say, therefore, you can't beat us because you, okay? But we, by mobilizing people who believe in life and who have the capabilities of freedom, can beat these people, okay? We have before, we can do it again. Now, here's the thing to understand. This is fundamental to the nature of this war and the broader war that it is a part of, okay? Freedom is the parent of science and also the child of science. Science comes from free inquiry. Free thought gives us truth, okay? Science is the search for truth, okay? Okay? And science also can give us freedom. It can give us freedom from oppressors, and it can give us freedom from toil and the freedom from the slavery to necessity. So freedom will give us science. Science will give us freedom, okay? Now, Okay, I want Ukraine to develop its scientific capabilities so it can win, yes. I want Ukraine to develop its scientific capabilities so it can be free, yes. I want Ukraine to develop its scientific capability so it can contribute that capability to the alliance of free peoples everywhere, okay? Because we're all in this together. We're in this together, okay? So let's win this together. And finally, I do want to say one more thing, okay? Because while at the moment the United States is giving its scientific capabilities to you, you are also giving something even more precious to us. And I want to explain what that is, okay? I think many of you are familiar with the movie Casablanca. Are you? Yes? Okay. And there's a very famous scene in that movie, okay, which occurs in Rick's Cafe, where all the lost souls of the world are gathered, living in limbo, okay, displaced from their lives, not having any purpose. And the Germans are in the side of the cafe, and they're singing their song, Die Wacht am Rhein, okay, and everybody is just listening it demoralized. And then down the stairs comes Victor Laszlo, the resistance leader, right? And he is disgusted looking at this. And he goes up to the band and he says, play the Marseillaise. And the band leader doesn't know what to do, and he looks at Rick, and Rick nods and says, do it. And then the band strikes up the Marseillaise, and the whole place stands up, and they all start singing the Marseillaise. They have their souls restored. They are literally inspired. They have their spirit put back into them, okay? Ukraine is Victor Laszlo, okay? Ukraine, okay, has put the spirit back into the West, of what the West is supposed to stand for, a civilization based on freedom and the dignity of man and willing to fight and defend those values. And until you guys put up this fight, this was a collection of lost souls. Look at the French, look at the Germans, not knowing what to do, et cetera, et cetera. The Americans not believing you would fight because not understanding that anyone would have this in them. And then you strike up the band. You've taught the world to sing. And that's why I'm here. Slava Ukraini.